Max Verstappen looked like a ghost of his former self at the Hungarian Grand Prix, and not in the way you'd expect from a four-time world champion. This wasn't just a bad day at the office, this was a driver hitting the track with a car that felt like it belonged in a different league and not the better one. For someone who once crushed this very circuit by over 30 seconds in 2023, watching him limp to a P9 finish behind the Racing Bulls was just surreal, and the look on his face said it all. He wasn't angry, he was disappointed, and that's way worse. Red Bull, once a machine of dominance, is starting to look like a machine with parts falling off. And the worst part? Max saw it coming. He's been raising red flags about the development direction for months, and now those red flags are being waved trackside. The upgrades are simply not working. The grip is gone, the balance is off, and even strategy, which Red Bull used to ace, is falling flat. When you pit your lead driver into traffic in a midfield car and expect him to magic his way through, you're not playing to win. You're just hoping. But here's the kicker. Max is locked in for the long haul. He's already committed to Red Bull for 2026 and beyond in what was supposed to be the most ambitious next chapter of his career. New regulations, a new engine era, and the hope that Red Bull's powertrains project would rise to the occasion. But if the whispers from the paddock are anything to go by, things are looking shaky, real shaky. Rumors are swirling that Red Bull powertrains could be dead last when 2026 arrives, fighting with Audi for scraps rather than championships, and if that's the case, you've got to wonder, why would Max stick around? It's not just about losing races, it's about losing faith. Because Max Verstappen isn't the kind of driver who's going to suffer quietly while things fall apart around him. He's vocal, he's intense, and he's used to winning. When the car doesn't respond to him, it's not just a mechanical problem, it's a personal one. You can hear it in his voice. P9 or no points means nothing to me, he said after Hungary. That's not defeatist, that's a warning shot. And then there's the leadership vacuum. Christian Horner, gone. Say what you will about him, but Horner was a stabilizing figure. The new principal Mekis is still finding his feet, and it shows. His apology to Max after the race felt more like a PR patch than a real debrief. Sorry, Max, we didn't give you the car you deserve. Well, no kidding, but sorry doesn't get you podiums. The bigger question is whether Red Bull even has the right people left to fix this. They've lost key engineering minds, Rob Marshall to McLaren, Wheatley to Sauber, Newey looking at the exit door, the dominoes are falling fast, and McLaren is eating good off Red Bull's scraps. It's not just talent drain, it's a cultural shift. Red Bull used to feel like a fortress. Now it feels like a startup with legacy branding. Max is stuck in a storm he can't control, and the timing couldn't be worse. The second half of the season kicks off at his home race in Zandvoort, where expectations are sky high and the pressure even higher. And if the car doesn't deliver there, let's just say the Verstappen camp won't hold back. It's hard to ignore just how quickly Red Bull's empire is crumbling. Not long ago, they were the untouchable force in Formula One, 21 wins in 22 races, a car that looked glued to the track, and Max Verstappen playing chess while everyone else played checkers. Now, they can't even secure a podium. And it's not just a fluke, this is a pattern. 4 races in a row without a single top 3 finish, and that's something we haven't seen from Max since 2018. Back then, he was still learning. Now he's supposed to be in his prime. The stats are brutal. In 2023, he won Hungary by 33 seconds. In 2025, he finished 9th, over a minute behind Lando Norris. So that's not just a bad day, it's a collapse. And it's not like the entire grid suddenly leveled up. McLaren is clearly a step ahead, and Mercedes and Ferrari have quietly built consistency with 2 drivers regularly fighting for points. Meanwhile, Red Bull is still leaning on Max to carry the entire operation. Perez is practically invisible at this point, and that's putting it politely. The problem with this one driver philosophy is it works well until it doesn't. When the car's on rails and Verstappen is in God mode, sure, you don't need a second driver, but when the car is unpredictable and the midfield is packed with hungry challengers, you need that second car to block, to experiment with strategy, to gather data, basically to exist. Right now, Red Bull is operating like it's still 2023, but the sport has moved on. They're stuck in a mindset that no longer fits the battlefield they're in. And then there's the internal chaos. Red Bull isn't just bleeding performance, they're bleeding leadership. The loss of Adrian Newey, who many believe was the silent architect of their dominance, was a gut punch. He didn't just design fast cars, he translated driver feedback into track domination. And when that kind of talent walks out the door, what you're left with is a team that doesn't know how to react when things go wrong. Just look at Sauber. Under the guidance of former Red Bull engineer Tim Wheatley, they've clawed their way from the back of the grid into real contention for P6, maybe even P5. That's in the final year of the current regulations when most teams are already looking toward 2026. But Sauber is fighting now. Red Bull, they've mentally checked out, banking on a 2026 miracle that may never come. And that brings us to the power unit problem. Red Bull Powertrains was supposed to be their ace in the hole, a move to control their destiny post-Honda. But what we're hearing behind the scenes isn't encouraging. If the predictions are true and they're dead last in the engine pecking order once the new rules hit, then no amount of Verstappen magic will save them. It won't matter how sharp he is in the corners if he's losing half a second down every straight. This is where Max's decision to stick with Red Bull past 2026 starts to look questionable. Sure, on paper it made sense, build a new legacy with a new project, be the face of a fresh era. But F1 doesn't care about plans, it cares about execution, and right now Red Bull is failing to deliver on every front, technical, strategic, and leadership. It's no longer about how good Max is, it's about whether the team around him is even capable of fighting. There's a limit to how long even the most loyal driver can hold his breath. Verstappen may be under contract until 2028, but contracts in Formula One are only as strong as the results they deliver. Exit clauses exist for a reason. And if Red Bull continues spiraling like this, those clauses are going to look a lot more tempting with every wasted weekend. Behind the scenes, teams like Mercedes and Aston Martin are already circling, watching, waiting. They know the clock is ticking. They know Verstappen isn't the type to sink with a ship. Mercedes, for one, doesn't need a savior. They believe in George Russell, but even belief has limits. If Red Bull completely collapses and Max becomes available, it's hard to imagine Toto Wolff not at least picking up the phone. The same goes for Aston Martin. Alonso won't race forever, and Stroll's not winning a championship anytime soon. If their 2026 car shows promise, Verstappen could be the missing piece to finally make Aston a title contender. And for Max, jumping into a well-funded, fast, and functional team might start to sound a lot more appealing than being stuck in a never-ending rebuild. But this isn't just about Max. It's about what Red Bull stands to lose. They didn't just build a championship-winning car, they built a brand around dominance, a legacy. Losing Verstappen wouldn't just hurt their chances on the track, it would destroy their identity. They'd go from title favorites to a mid-pack team with no direction and no star power to anchor them. The scary part? That's already starting to happen. When you have fans debating whether Racing Bulls has a more stable package than the main Red Bull team, you know the fall from grace is getting real. Even Red Bull's internal culture seems fractured. There's a lack of cohesion in strategy, in development priorities, and most importantly, in vision. F1 isn't kind to teams that fail to evolve. Ask Ferrari, ask McLaren. Before their recent resurgence, Red Bull used to be 5 steps ahead. Now they're reacting to problems rather than preventing them. And the more they try to patch things together on the fly, the more disconnected everything looks. Verstappen may be a generational talent, but he's also human. Watching him get stuck behind a midfield car and unable to make a pass is not just frustrating for fans, it's demoralizing for the driver. Especially when he knows exactly what needs fixing and no one around him seems capable of doing it. If he sees another season slip away because the car isn't responding, he's not going to wait around out of sentiment, he's going to look for a way out and no one will blame him. What Red Bull needs now isn't just better upgrades or smarter pit calls, they need a full reset on leadership, on technical priorities, on their approach to the future. It's not enough to be good in 2023 and hope it lasts. The sport moves too fast. You can dominate one season and be irrelevant the next. That's where Red Bull is headed if they don't wake up now. Max Verstappen isn't the problem. He's the warning siren. And if Red Bull doesn't start treating this like a full-blown crisis, they're going to lose the one person still holding the entire operation together. Not to another team, not to another project, to frustration, to burnout, to the harsh reality that even the fastest drivers in the world can't outrun a team that's going backward.